What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and I'm currently in more than $15 million of debt. And one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, Chandler, how on earth in your 20s were you able to get approved for all of this debt? And so in this video, I'm gonna share with you my journey, and I'm hoping that these tips, tricks, and rules will give you everything that you need to be able to get approved for all of the loans that you're wanting. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, if you're new to the channel, I've been investing in real estate for more than 9 years. I currently own over 160 units of residential real estate and 2 storage unit complexes, and I currently have more than 20 units of rental real estate under contract. Now, almost every time that I make a video sharing how much debt I'm in, or that I'm buying another rental property, or talking about the rental properties I own, there's usually at least a couple comments saying, all right, I think this is BS. How on earth could you get approved for this much debt? It just doesn't make sense because I went in to get a loan and I got denied. And so in this video, I'm gonna share with you everything that you need to know to be able to get approved for all of the debt that you want. Now, a lot of times there are people that you just can't get approved, but the majority of the time, it's because you're not doing things correctly, or you don't understand what criteria the banks you're looking at so that you can meet that criteria so you can get approved. So I'm hoping by the end of this video, you will know the exact criteria you need to meet and the changes you need to make so you look like someone that they want to lend to. The only thing that I ask you to do is remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell. And with all of that being said, let's jump into it. Now, before I dive into these tips, tricks, criteria, and everything else you need to know, you first need to understand that debt is a tool. And just like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil. If you use debt incorrectly, it can end you up in a very, very scary, painful, terrible, horrible place. And if you're already in a very, very terrible place, might be worth it to go follow Dave Ramsey and get advice from him, because obviously you don't know how to manage debt, which means you're gonna have to go to him and then learn a bunch of stupid rules that aren't going to help you create wealth. They're just gonna help you get out of debt. Now, if you don't have debt, you should not be listening to advice from Dave Ramsey, because his advice essentially is do not get debt ever, do not use debt ever, and this is foolish. If we look at a car, can a car kill someone? Yes, but is it smart to never use a car? No. Well, you could do it, but it would just take you a very long time to get anywhere, and it would most likely cost you a ton of money. You get my point. This is a tool. If used correctly, it can be extremely advantageous to you. If it's not used correctly, it can land you in a big mess. So, first thing, make sure you understand debt is a tool, and it's a very dangerous tool if used incorrectly. But if you use it correctly, it can help you amass a ton of real estate, control a ton of real estate, and become extremely wealthy. Now that we've given that precaution, the only other precaution I'm going to give you, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, and now let's jump into everything that you need to know to hopefully be able to get approved for the loans that you're wanting to get approved for. Number 1, you've got to have a good credit score. Now, here's the catch-22 with the credit score. You can't get a good one unless you get credit, and you can't get credit if you have a bad one. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, and that's because it is. That's why I suggest starting with little debt that you can actually get when you have no debt. Let me explain. If you have no credit score, and you have no debt, and that's why you have no credit score, and you go to buy a house with debt, you're not going to get approved because you have no credit history and no score, or a very low score. This means you need to create your own credit score by getting debt in things like credit cards or potentially car loans, and you need to build up a good reputation with these credit companies. Now, what they're looking for is, first off, that you actually have debt, second off, that you're making payments on time, and thirdly, that you're not using all of the utilization on these things like credit cards. So for example, if you're gonna go and get a credit card, you get the credit card that you know you can get approved for. You get a limit of $5,000 on this credit card. You don't wanna tap it out. You wanna use no more than 10%. You wanna make sure you pay it off, everything that you've used every single month, or if you can't pay it off, you pay it down to for sure under 10%, because you've always kept it under 10%. Now, if you come to me and you say, Chandler, but I have to use my whole credit card because I'm in trouble, well, then you probably don't deserve to have a credit card. You're one of those people that you don't deserve to have debt because you're making mistakes that are going to cost you in the future. So please don't use over 10% of your credit card. Your credit card should not be something that you use because you need to use it. It should be something that you use because you're trying to build credit. If you can't be trusted, don't get a credit card. If you can, never use over 10% and make sure that you pay it off every single month. Make sure you're making your payments, and then you can start to get a history. Same goes if you go and get a loan on a car. If you get a loan on a car, make sure you're making your payments every single month and that you never miss a payment and that you're always paying on time. These things should help you build a good enough score to where then you can go and get approved for a loan on a house, and then you can purchase your first home with a mortgage, and then that can start to build your credit score, because every time that they pull your credit, every time that you get new debt or new credit, it's going to affect your score, and so you've got to take that into consideration. This is why I suggest that everyone gets 3 to 4 credit cards, that they're consistently following all of these rules. Now, there are a ton of other rules, and there are a ton of other things you can do to increase your credit score, but I'm not going to cover them in this video. However, I did make this video with over 600,000 views that shows you everything you need to do to be able to get a good credit score, so go and do that. All right, guys, now we're gonna jump into the next couple. However, you need to understand all of these have a purpose, and the real purpose is banks want to know that you're a responsible person. They want to know that you're responsible with your finances. They want to know that you're responsible with debt. The credit score was one of the ways they can do that, and the rest of these are going to be other ways that they do that, and these are the things that all banks look at to determine how responsible you are, so they know if you're someone that they want to lend to. So number 2 is how much cash on hand do you have, or how much in reserves do you have? So they're going to ask for bank statements. They want to see that you've got enough in reserves. So if crap hits the fan and you lose your job, or things go sour, or things go south, you've got money in the bank. Not only enough money in the bank for a down payment on whatever you're getting debt on, but additional reserves that can support your lifestyle. I would say, if possible, get a year worth of reserves so that after you've got your down payment, you could cover all of your expenses, any payments, anything for a year. Now, a lot of banks will approve you for a loan if you've got 6 months reserves for all of your stuff and enough for the down payment, and some might even do it for less. But I'm telling you, if you want to be a responsible individual, have more than that, and understand this is something a bank is looking at. So if you've got enough for your down payment and then, a couple $100 in the bank, they're not going to approve you, nor should they, nor should you want to get a loan with that little reserves anyways. So make sure you've got cash in the bank so that you look good. All right, I'm gonna cover number 3 and number 4 together because they're kind of the same thing, but they're kind of not. Number 3 is that you have good income. This is probably one of the most common places that people don't get approved for a loan. And the reason for this is they go in and they say, yeah, I've got great money in the bank and I have incredible income. Last year, I made $200,000 or $100,000 or $80,000 or whatever it is. And the bank says, perfect, send us your taxes. And they're like, all right, here are my taxes. And they paid 0 in taxes. And the reason they paid 0 in taxes is because they wrote off everything. So they said, hey, government, I made this much, but I spent this much on my business or on my 1099. So you're saying you had good income and you have money in the bank, but your taxes are saying that you don't have income because you spent all of this money that you then wrote off. So that means one of 2 things. That means we don't know where this money came from and your taxes are legit, or it means you were dishonest on your taxes. Either way, you're not someone that we want to trust because we need taxable income showing that you actually made income. And this is a principle that I like to refer to as pay to play. If you want to get approved for loans, you've got to pay taxes. You've got to pay your fair share. This changes as you buy more real estate. If you become a real estate professional, you can use something called cost segregation. You can accelerate the depreciation from the rental properties that you've bought, and you can use that depreciation against your taxable income so you don't have to pay taxes, but you show that to them and they're like, yeah, this makes sense. This is something the government allows you to do. You legit had income, you just had depreciation. We're not going to count the depreciation. depreciation. We're just gonna show your income. We can approve you for a loan. That's what I do. So if you pay to play at the front and then you spend your money properly and then you use depreciation, you can still continue to get approved for loans. But if you're on the front end and you're being dishonest, or you truly are spending all of your money and that shows in your taxes, you're not gonna get approved for a loan. So that's the income section. The next portion is the debt to income section. And the reason that I share this with you again is because your income is based on your taxable income, what you're showing in your taxes. Your debt to income is the same. They're going to look at your income from taxes and then they're gonna compare that to your debt. So they're gonna look at your income from your taxes, they're gonna look at your payments or your debt on a monthly basis, and they're gonna take that ratio and they're gonna say, all right, does he have the ability to have more payments? Or is he tapped out where we think even with his payments right now, he doesn't have enough income to take on this new debt? And they're gonna run it with the new debt to make sure that it meets their criteria. And the best part is you can talk to your loan officer and see their criteria. This is why every year I do a meeting with my accountant, I do a meeting with my loan officer. I say, hey guys, I wanna be able to buy this much in real estate. What do my taxes need to say? Now, I'm sure a lot of you are saying, well, Chandler, does that mean you'd be dishonest on your taxes if you needed to? No, most definitely not. What it means is if I have a goal of purchasing this much real estate and I'm not going to be able to meet that goal because I have expensed too much on my taxes, it might mean me saying, hey, I bought all this equipment for my business. I'm not going to include that in my taxes because I can choose not to expense it as a business expense. I can choose to take it as a personal expense, and now my taxes show enough income so that I'm good to go. Finally, it comes down to your relationship with the bank, how much you've done with them. A lot of people will come to me and say, Chandler, okay, we get this. The thing is, you've got a ton of debt. Like you have massive amounts of debt and massive amounts of payments. How has that not thrown off your debt to income ratio? Well, here's the deal. Once you get to the point where you have rental history, they're going to allow you to count 100% of your rental income. Now, on your first year, they're gonna have certain things that may exclude you from being able to do this. For example, if you're new to investing in real estate, they might say, hey, we can't take this income and count it until you have a year track record with this property. But I'm gonna give you a little helpful hint so that you can get an idea of what they're looking for. So if you get your computer, you're going to plug in Fannie Mae Selling Guide rental income. And when you plug this in, you're then going to click on this little B3-3 rental income Fannie Mae selling. You're gonna pop in here. And if you look, you can see general requirements for documenting rental income. You click this and it gives you a bunch of little charts that are going to say, if this, then that. So you can look at your particular situation. They're going to dive into if you bought the rental property mid-year. They're going to dive into if you bought it and you've already had taxes on that property. They're going to dive into if you bought one property and then you're buying a second property later on in the year and you can prove your rental income from this. They're going to dive into all of these different scenarios and show you what you can count. I'm at the point where I have such a good track record with my bank. I can say this is what the rental income is, this is what it's going to be, this is how I've shown you that it's counted in the past. And a lot of times I don't even need to do that because whatever the current rental income is, it's enough to at least break even. So it doesn't affect my debt to income ratio at all. And then I get the taxes, I file my taxes and they see, holy cow, he crushed it on this property. Now he has this additional income. So when people say, Chandler, doesn't that affect your debt to income ratio? Yeah, it does. Every purchase I do actually makes my debt to income ratio better because the payment, I usually am getting extreme cash flow. And so I can count all of that cash flow up above and beyond what the new debt is. So for those of you that are worried about, oh, well, what if I buy a property, then it's gonna hurt my debt to income, then I'm not gonna be able to get approved for more loans. No, it should do the opposite. The whole point of investing in real estate is putting you in a place where you're creating more income and you're creating more opportunities for yourself. And so the more rental properties you buy, the more income you should have and the better your debt to income ratio should look. It's just getting those first couple loans that might be difficult, and that's why you need to pay to play with your taxes. These are all things that you can tweak or change to look better to a bank. But the majority of the time, if you're not getting approved, it's because of one of these reasons. So you just need to figure out which one it is, and you need to figure out what you need to do to look better, whether that's paying more taxes, whether that's making more income, whether that's increasing your credit score. And credit scores can be difficult because a lot of times as you ask for more debt, that will temporarily bump down your credit score. And that's why it's important to start at a young age, even a year or two before you're wanting to purchase a rental property or your first house, building up your credit score so when it's time to get approved for that loan, you look good and you're not saying, crap, I don't have credit, what do I do? And they say, well, you can't get approved until you have credit, and then you have to go through that process. That's why with me and my kids, I'm gonna make sure that they've got a credit card in high school. Now, they're not gonna use it, and they're gonna understand that, and they're gonna understand the principles behind credit and debt and all of that. But if you're someone that's thinking about investing and you don't currently have credit, you need to do that. You need to start building a credit score as soon as possible. The last point that I will make is once you get into commercial lending, they wanna know that you personally are a good borrower. It's still important, but your credit score and your personal track record becomes a little less important, and the numbers for the actual property and what they think it can produce become more important. It still helps. If you got a ton of money in the bank, an incredible debt to income ratio, all of those things, it does make you look better to the bank. But if you're buying a property where the numbers are absolutely atrocious, it's gonna be harder to get approved. And I ran into this with commercial lending on a bigger property where they were really hesitant to lend to me because they didn't believe that I could increase the value of these properties and the rents like I was saying I could. Luckily, I had a bunch of other rental properties that I could bring to them that were 4 units or less and say, no, look, I've done this before. This is on a bigger scale, but I promise I can do it. They worked with me and we found a way that they were able to approve me even though the terms weren't necessarily incredible. Then I proved myself with this bigger commercial deal, and now they don't question me at all. Where if you do get them to lend to you and you crap down your leg, they're going to be following up on those properties, and so you need to make sure you're doing what's required on your due diligence to make sure properties go well so that lenders continue to have a good relationship with you because you've got a good reputation when it comes to the way that you've handled things. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell. If you're someone that really wants to lean into buying rental properties, it's not too late to snag my real estate investing course. The price has gone up, but it's going to go up again because we're adding more incredible stuff to it. So link in description if you want to go and snag that course before the price jumps again. I hope this video helped you a ton, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, guys.